Ethan Caldwell, dressed sharply in a tailored suit, adjusted his tie as he sat at the polished mahogany table of a high-end restaurant. The soft hum of conversation filled the air, mingling with the clinking of silverware and the aroma of freshly brewed coffee. It was a day meant for celebration, a day when years of hard work would culminate in the signing of a major deal that would elevate Ethan and his company to unprecedented success. Sitting across from him, Chris Alton, his best friend and business partner, casually scrolled through his phone, seemingly indifferent to the magnitude of the moment. "I'm going to use the restroom," Ethan said, standing up. "Sure thing," Chris replied absently, his eyes never leaving the screen of his phone. Ethan walked toward the restroom, a sense of satisfaction swelling within him. This deal would secure his company's place at the top of the industry for years to come. He had built this business with Chris, side by side, from the ground up, and now they were on the verge of an expansion that would bring untold success. As Ethan disappeared from view, the atmosphere at the table shifted. Lily James, a young waitress, approached quietly with a pitcher of water to refill Chris's glass. Lily had been working at the restaurant for a few months and had made a habit of staying out of the business conversations of the wealthy patrons she served. But today, something felt different. As she neared the table, she overheard Chris speaking quietly into his phone. "It's all set," Chris whispered. "Ethan has no idea. Once the deal is signed tomorrow, I'll have control of everything. You won't see it coming until it's too late. The company, the assets, they'll all be mine." Lily's heart raced, and her hands trembled slightly as she stepped back. She quickly retreated to the kitchen, her mind spinning. She had just overheard a plot to betray Ethan, a man she didn't know personally but had seen enough to respect. She could have just kept her head down and let it pass. It wasn't her business, after all, but something about what she heard gnawed at her conscience. Could she really stand by and do nothing? Ethan returned to the table, unaware of what had transpired in his absence. Chris greeted him with a warm smile, the perfect mask for his betrayal. As the two friends resumed their conversation about the deal, Lily lingered nearby, watching, her mind racing. She had never intervened in the affairs of the wealthy patrons before, but this was different. When Chris excused himself to take a call outside, Lily saw her opportunity. She took a deep breath, summoning the courage to act. Quietly, she approached Ethan's table. "Excuse me, sir," Lily said, her voice low and tentative. Ethan looked up, surprised to see the waitress addressing him. "Yes." Lily glanced nervously toward the door where Chris had stepped out. "I overheard something," she said. "You need to know. Your friend, Chris, he's planning to betray you. He's going to take everything from you once the deal is signed." Ethan's brow furrowed in disbelief. "What?" he asked, his voice a mixture of confusion and shock. "That's impossible. Chris is my best friend." "I know it sounds crazy," Lily replied, her words tumbling out quickly. "But I heard him on the phone. He said he's been planning this for months. He's going to take control of your company without you even knowing it." Ethan sat back in his chair, his mind reeling. He wanted to dismiss her claims. After all, this was Chris, his closest friend, someone he had trusted for years. But something in Lily's eyes, in her sincerity, made him pause. "Why are you telling me this?" Ethan asked quietly. Lily hesitated, her pulse racing. I couldn't stand by and let this happen." "You deserve to know the truth." Ethan's mind swirled with doubt and confusion, but he managed a quiet "thank you" before Lily hurried back to the kitchen, leaving him alone with his thoughts. Ethan glanced toward the contract lying on the table, A few minutes ago, it had represented a bright future. Now it felt like a trap. Could Chris, his best friend since childhood, really be plotting to take everything from him? As Chris re-entered the restaurant, smiling as if nothing had happened, Ethan's stomach twisted with uncertainty. "Everything okay?" Chris asked casually as he sat down. Ethan forced a smile. "Yeah, just thinking over the deal. You know how it is." Chris nodded. "Big decisions. But we're ready. This is it, our moment." Ethan stared down at the papers on the table, trying to reconcile the image of the friend he had known for years with the man Lily had described. His heart told him that this was Chris, the guy who had stood by him through thick and thin. But his gut was telling him something different. Something was wrong. "I think I need a little more time," Ethan said slowly, his eyes still on the contract. "I want to make sure everything's in order." Chris's smile faltered, but he quickly recovered. Of course, no harm in double-checking. But Ethan saw it, the brief flicker of annoyance in Chris's eyes. And that flicker, small as it was, confirmed Ethan's growing suspicions. The next day, Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that something was terribly wrong. After a restless night, he contacted Mason Rivers, a private investigator he had worked with before. Mason was known for being thorough and discreet, and Ethan needed answers. Fast. "I think my business partner is planning to betray me," Ethan explained over the phone. "Can you look into his finances? I need to know if there's anything shady going on." Mason agreed to start immediately. For the next few days, Ethan carried on as usual, meeting with Chris, attending board meetings, even going out for drinks. But every interaction was colored by the suspicion planted by Lily's warning. Chris seemed as affable and confident as ever, but Ethan couldn't shake the feeling that everything was a lie. 3 days later, Mason called. "I found something," he said, his tone serious. "It's not huge, but it's a start. There are some irregularities in Chris's personal accounts. He's been moving money into an offshore account. Nothing illegal by itself, but it's suspicious, especially given the timing." Ethan's heart sank. "How much?" "Not millions, yet, but he's positioning himself for something big. He's been planning this for a while." Ethan closed his eyes, the weight of the betrayal crashing over him. Chris, his best friend, was siphoning money and preparing for a hostile takeover. Lily had been right. "I'll need more proof," Ethan said, his voice tight. "I can't make a move until I'm sure." "I'll keep digging," Mason assured him. A few days later, armed with more damning evidence from Mason, Ethan arranged to meet Chris at a private office they often used for confidential discussions. Ethan had already frozen the company's accounts, ensuring that Chris couldn't access any more funds. Chris arrived, all smiles, unaware that Ethan knew everything. "Hey man," Chris greeted him, taking the seat, ready to sign the deal. Ethan didn't bother with pleasantries. "I know everything, Chris," he said coldly. "The offshore accounts, the stolen money, your plan to take over the company." Chris's face paled, but he quickly tried to laugh it off. "What are you talking about? You've been working too hard, Ethan. Maybe you're seeing things that aren't there." "I hired a private investigator," Ethan continued, his voice steely. "We've got every transfer, every deal you've made with our competitors. You've been planning this for over a year." The tension in the room was palpable as Chris leaned back in his chair, his smirk gone. "All right, fine," he said, his tone bitter. "You want the truth?" "Yeah, I've been planning this. You didn't leave me much choice." Ethan narrowed his eyes. "What the hell are you talking about?" Chris leaned forward, his voice laced with resentment. Do you have any idea what it's been like standing in your shadow? You get all the glory, all the credit, while I do the dirty work. I'm done being your sidekick, Ethan. I deserve more. Ethan's anger boiled over. So you decide to steal from me, from the company we built together. You think that justifies betraying me? Chris's face hardened. It's not stealing. It's taking what I'm owed. You've always kept me in your shadow. I wasn't going to wait any longer. Ethan stood up, his hands clenched into fists. You've ruined everything because of your ego. You're finished, Chris. I've already frozen the accounts. You're done. For the first time, fear flickered across Chris's face. You what? You can't do this. I already have, Ethan said, his voice deadly calm. You're going to face the consequences of what you've done. You're not just a thief. You're a traitor. Chris stormed out, leaving Ethan standing in the empty office, the weight of betrayal pressing down on him. He had just confronted his best friend, the man he had trusted with everything, and discovered that trust was built on lies. Later that evening, Ethan sat alone in his office, staring at the city skyline as the reality of Chris's betrayal sank in. The years of friendship, the shared dreams, the business they had built together, it had all been shattered. As he sat there, a soft knock on the door interrupted his thoughts. It was Lily, her face full of concern. Ethan, she asked quietly. I heard what happened. Are you okay? Ethan looked up, grateful for her presence. It's over. Chris is gone. I'm so sorry, Lily said, sitting down across from him. I didn't know if you'd believe me. Ethan sighed, running a hand through his hair. I didn't want to believe it. But you saved me from making the biggest mistake of my life. I don't know how to thank you. Lily smiled softly. I'm just glad I could help. They sat in silence for a moment, the gravity of everything settling in. Ethan knew there were legal battles ahead, but for the first time, he felt a sense of peace. He had stopped Chris before it was too late, and that was in no small part thanks to Lily. The next morning, Ethan woke up feeling lighter. The betrayal still stung, but he knew he had to move forward. He couldn't dwell on the past, not when there was so much to do. Later that day, Ethan drove to Lily's modest home, a small weathered house in a quiet neighborhood. He knocked on the door, feeling a rare sense of nervousness. Lily opened the door, surprised to see him. Ethan, what are you doing here? I came to thank you properly, Ethan said, smiling. Lily stepped aside, inviting him in. You didn't have to come all this way. Inside, the house was humble but cozy. Ethan could see the signs of someone who had worked hard for everything they had. He sat down on the couch, feeling out of place in his suit in such a simple setting. I've been thinking a lot about what you did for me, Ethan began. You didn't have to get involved, but you did. You saved me from losing everything. I just did what anyone would have done, Lily replied, her voice humble. No, Ethan said, shaking his head. Not everyone would have done what you did. Most people would have stayed quiet. You didn't. You took a risk, and it made all the difference. Lily shifted uncomfortably, unused to being the center of attention. I just thought it was the right thing to do. Ethan smiled. And because of that, I want to help you. I know you gave up school to take care of your mom, and I'd like to help you finish your education. And if you're interested, I'd like to offer you a position at my company. You've got great instincts, and I could use someone like you on my team. Lily's eyes widened in shock. You'd help me go back to school, and a job at your company. Ethan nodded. I believe in you, Lily. You've already proven you have what it takes. Tears welled up in Lily's eyes, and she quickly blinked them away. I don't know how to thank you. You don't have to, Ethan said gently. Just take this opportunity and make the most of it. Lily smiled through her tears. I will, I promise. Over the next few weeks, Lily joined Ethan's company, quickly making her mark. She worked closely with the team, her natural intelligence and keen instincts earning her the respect of her colleagues. She thrived in her new role, and as she gained confidence, she realized she had found her place in the world. Ethan kept a watchful eye on her progress, proud of the person she was becoming. Their partnership grew stronger with each passing day, and together they began to shape the future of the company. One evening, after a long day at the office, Ethan found Lily still working late. "You're still here?" he asked, smiling. "I just wanted to finish up some work for Sandra," Lily replied, smiling back. "You're doing great work," Ethan said, leaning against the doorframe. "I hope you know that." Lily blushed slightly. "Thank you. That means a lot coming from you." Ethan chuckled. "You don't have to burn the midnight oil every night, you know." "I don't mind," Lily said with a smile. "I actually enjoy it." Ethan nodded, watching her for a moment. "I'm really glad you're here, Lily. You've been an incredible addition to the team." Lily looked up at him, her heart swelling with pride. "I'm just glad I can help." As Ethan left the office, he realized that something had shifted. The company had weathered the storm of Chris's betrayal, but more importantly, he had found a new kind of partnership, one built on trust, respect, and loyalty. As Lily settled into her role, things seemed to be going smoothly. But one morning, Ethan arrived at the office to find a sealed envelope waiting for him. Inside was a USB drive. His heart sank as he plugged it into his computer. The screen flickered to life, showing Chris sitting in a dingy hotel room, a smirk on his face. "Ethan," Chris began, his voice dripping with malice. "You might think you've won. You froze my accounts and shut me out. But this isn't over. I've been busy gathering information, things that will ruin you. By the time the media gets wind of it, your precious company will be in tatters." The video ended abruptly, leaving Ethan staring at the screen in shock. What could Chris have possibly dug up? Was it real or just another one of his manipulations? Without hesitation, Ethan called Mason. "We've got a problem," he said. "It's Chris. He's threatening to go public with something." Mason wasted no time. "Send me the video. I'll have my team analyze it and figure out what he's planning." For the next few days, Ethan worked closely with his legal team and Mason's investigators. Chris had vanished, but his threats loomed large. Every morning, Ethan checked the headlines, bracing for the bombshell that could ruin everything. The tension was unbearable, but Ethan knew he couldn't afford to panic. Finally, Mason called with good news. "We intercepted a message Chris sent to a media contact. He's trying to sell a story, but it's all lies, fabricated details, mixed with half-truths. He's desperate." Ethan exhaled, feeling a wave of relief. "Can we stop him?" "We're already on it," Mason assured him. "We've got enough evidence to discredit anything he tries to say, and we're filing a lawsuit for defamation and fraud. Chris is out of options." The next morning, the news broke, this time with the truth. Chris was exposed for the fraud he was, and Ethan's name was cleared. The weight that had been pressing down on him for weeks finally lifted. With Chris out of the picture and the legal battles behind them, the company began to thrive again. Ethan and Lily's partnership had grown stronger than ever, and the team looked to the future with optimism. Lily continued to excel in her role, her contributions becoming invaluable to the company's success. One afternoon, Ethan called Lily into his office. "I've been thinking about everything you've done," he said, smiling. "You've earned a permanent leadership role here. I want you to join the executive team and oversee our international operations." Lily blinked, stunned. "A leadership role?" Ethan nodded. "You've proven yourself time and time again. You're more than ready." Tears of gratitude welled up in Lily's eyes. "I don't know how to thank you." "You've earned it," Ethan replied warmly. "Welcome to the leadership team." As Lily left his office, she felt a sense of fulfillment she had never known before. She had come a long way from being the quiet waitress at the bistro. Now she was a leader, shaping the future of the company she had helped save. At a company-wide celebration, Alton stood on stage, addressing the crowd. "We've faced challenges, but we've come out stronger. And there's someone here who has been instrumental in our success. Lily Adams." The crowd erupted in applause as Lily stepped up to the stage, her heart racing. Alton smiled proudly as he introduced her as the newest member of the executive team. "I never imagined I'd be standing here," Lily said, her voice steady but filled with emotion. "But I'm grateful for this opportunity, and I'm excited to continue working with all of you to make this company even better." As the applause rang out, Alton watched with pride. The journey had been long and filled with challenges, but together, he and Lily had built something incredible. And as they looked toward the future, they knew that this was just the beginning. And so, the story concludes with Alton and Lily, who, through trust, integrity, and determination, emerged stronger after the storm of betrayal, leading the company into a bright and prosperous future.